A businessman who once sat at the pinnacle of power, hailed as the richest contracting tycoon in South Africa, now bowed his head and walked into the courtroom in Alexandria under the strict escort of armed police. The press cameras flashed continuously, and the public was in a frenzy. The man who once held a 100 million rand contract was now facing charges of plotting to murder his ex-girlfriend. What happened behind the scenes that led to one of South Africa's most shocking cases? Let's follow each detail, each twist, to clarify the whole truth behind this case. Vusimusi Matlala, known to many as Cat, was born and raised in a poor South African township where unemployment and violent crime were rife. His childhood was spent on red, dusty roads stretching for kilometers, where young boys often witnessed stabbings and robberies in broad daylight. In that context, Matlala revealed his differences, always dressed neatly, often trying to impress in meetings, and especially having the ability to persuade others from a young age. It was this environment of deprivation that nurtured his ambition to excel at all costs. Childhood friends recalled that he rarely took a back seat to anyone, always trying to take the lead, even in street games. The nickname Cat was not given by chance. Matlala was repeatedly arrested by the police for minor incidents but always escaped. Like a cat with more than 9 lives. The name became a trademark, associated with the image of a man who knew how to wriggle out of and survive in any situation. From a man who grew up in poverty, Vusimusi, Cat Matlala, quickly used his connections to get his hands on lucrative government contracts. The pinnacle of his career came when he won a 360 million rand contract to provide healthcare services to the South African Police Service, SAPS. This was not only a huge sum, but also a testament to Matlala's influence in the business world. Thanks to this contract, he began to appear as a successful businessman, luxury cars, villas of thousands of square meters, and a lavish lifestyle that was very different from his deprived childhood. The media at that time called Matlala the contractor tycoon, a name that both honored his wealth and concealed doubts about how he achieved his position. Many allegations have been made that Matlala relied not only on his business skills, but also on his close relationships with high-ranking officials, secret meetings, hidden promises, even political pressure. All were said to be tools for him to manipulate the bidding process. For Matlala, each contract was not only worth money, but also a step to consolidate power in the emerging empire. Vusimusi, Cat Matlala, has entered the ranks of South Africa's most prominent businessmen after winning a huge contract with the South African Police Service, SAPS. The 360 million rand contract for health services for police officers has catapulted Matlala into the spotlight. This is considered the biggest milestone in his business career, turning him from a little-known face into a character known as the contracting tycoon. With the huge amount of money earned from the contracts, Matlala built himself an image of a successful businessman. He owned many legally registered companies, drove the most luxurious cars, lived in a villa of thousands of square meters in high-class suburbs. In the public eye, Matlala appeared as a successful man, neat suits, confident demeanor, and always appeared at lavish events. But behind the glamour were powerful political connections. Matlala was said to have close ties with politicians and high-ranking police officials. He was often seen at lavish parties with powerful figures, and his name was always associated with rumors of being untouchable thanks to his connections at the top. This makes many people believe that the contracting empire he built was not only based on business ability, but also thanks to sophisticated protection from circles of power. While building his image as a successful businessman, Vusimusi, Cat Matlala, has also been accused of using sophisticated tactics to consolidate and maintain power. For years, South African investigators and media have questioned whether he bribed officials, engaged in corruption, and even directly interfered with criminal records. The investigation found that more than 120 files that had been linked to Matlala or people in his network had disappeared or had been altered in unusual ways, creating the image of a man capable of bending the justice system to protect himself. Police insiders say that whenever Matlala's name comes up in an investigation, the case is often delayed, lost, or downgraded in severity. Allegations that he used money and political connections to buy silence range from investigators to higher-ups. Not only did Matlala stop at protecting himself, he was also said to have used his influence to eliminate opponents and paralyze anti-corruption efforts targeting his businesses. This shield of power makes him almost untouchable in the eyes of the public. People believe that, even if there is evidence, it is impossible to bring Matlala to court, because behind him is a whole network of protection. It was the rumors of the invisible shield that helped turn Matlala from a wealthy businessman into a symbol of the corruption in the relationship between money, politics, and crime in South Africa. After years of being seen as an untouchable, contracting tycoon, the turning point that caused Vusimusi Cat Matlala's image to begin to crumble came in 2023. That night, on the N1 highway, the main artery connecting Johannesburg and Pretoria, a car carrying famous actress Tebogo Jane suddenly became the target of a daring shooting. As the car was moving at high speed, a series of bullets suddenly tore through the night. Jane, who was sitting in the front seat, was hit in the leg, and blood was dripping all over the floor of the car. There was also another female passenger in the car, her close friend, who was seriously injured in the back. The bullet hit her spinal cord, permanently leaving her unable to walk. The scene left behind shattered glass, blood stains, and a car that swayed and stopped on the side of the road for kilometers. News of the attack spread quickly across South Africa. People were shocked that a familiar face on the screen had almost become the victim of an assassination in the middle of a busy highway. As the public questioned who was bold enough to commit such an act, the police began to narrow down the investigation. And the first name to appear in the file was Vusimusi Cat Matlala. According to initial investigations, the motive for the shooting may have been related to the complicated relationship between Matlala and Jane. They had been an open couple, but broke up under strain. Witnesses said Jane had been repeatedly threatened after the breakup. With money, power, and a history of previously evading charges, Matlala became the prime suspect. The shooting on the N1 not only caused public outrage, but also marked the first crack in Matlala's successful businessman facade. From here, society's eyes began to focus on him, no longer seeing him as a successful contracting tycoon, but as someone who could be behind a cold-blooded assassination in the middle of a South African highway. As police investigated the N1 shooting, another surprising detail emerged that drew further attention to Vusimusi Cat Matlala. The Eswatini, formerly Swaziland Press, revealed that he was holding an Eswatini national identity card bearing a completely different name, Vusimusi Dlamini. This discovery immediately raised suspicions that Matlala had deliberately created a false identity to serve secret purposes. When journalists compared the data, the information recorded in this ID showed obvious irregularities. The parental information did not match reality and did not even prove that he had a legal relationship with the names recorded on the documents. This raises the question, why would a famous South African businessman with such great wealth and reputation need another identity document under an unfamiliar name? Legal experts say a fake ID could have helped Matlala hide assets, open offshore bank accounts, or move across borders unnoticed. Given that he is under investigation by South African police, the existence of the document adds to suspicions that Matlala was preparing an escape route in advance. News of the Eswatini ID quickly became a hot topic in the media. Many saw it as an important piece of the puzzle that exposed the true nature of the contracting tycoon, a man who not only used his power to manipulate the country, but also sought to create a cover outside South Africa's borders. After months of investigation, South African police decided to take action. In early May 2025, in Johannesburg, special forces raided a luxury villa where Vusimusi Cat Matlala was staying. Matlala was arrested shortly after his arrest, facing a series of serious charges, including money laundering and corruption, revolving around contracts worth hundreds of millions of rand that he signed with SAPS. This is considered one of the most serious indictments against a businessman in recent years. The prosecutor argued that Matlala had a permanent residence and was willing to cooperate with the investigation. However, the prosecutor strongly objected, arguing that Matlala was likely to flee the country with the false documents that had been discovered in Eswatini, and that he would pose a threat to witnesses if released. The heated debate in court immediately became the focus of public opinion. In the eyes of the public, the trial was not only a trial of an individual, but also a test of the South African judicial system, whether the law was strong enough to bring a powerful contracting tycoon to justice. After being arrested and facing a series of charges, Vusimusi Cat Matlala quickly entered a bail hearing at the Alexandra Magistrates Court. This was one of the most high-profile hearings of 2025, with a large crowd of journalists, lawyers, and members of the public who wanted to witness the moment a contracting tycoon stood before justice. In the packed courtroom, Matlala sat in the dock wearing a dark gray suit, his face calm despite the constant cameras on him. When allowed to speak, he proclaimed his innocence, insisting that all the charges against him were baseless and fabricated. He said it was a serious mistake to name himself in the N1 motorway shooting and that he had not been involved in or directed any assassination plot. Matlala also made a striking argument. He claimed that Tobogo Thobajine, the man who was shot in the shooting, had repeatedly contacted him and asked for his protection after receiving threats from rivals in the entertainment and business world. According to him, from October 2023 to mid-2024, Thobajane sought his protection, but he refused because he did not want to interfere in personal matters. This detail was emphasized by Matlala's legal team to prove that there was no conflict between him and Thobajane to the point that he had to harm her. Matlala also claimed that he was the victim of a political conspiracy. He said bluntly in the courtroom, "I am being framed. There are forces that want to end my career and destroy the reputation that I have built." These words added to the tension in the courtroom, as many people associated it with long-standing rumors about the connection between business and politics in South Africa. The hearing ended without an immediate verdict, but left a lasting impression on the public. A man who had once been at the pinnacle of power was now forced to rely on every plea to retain a fragile sliver of freedom. In public, major newspapers dubbed him the contracting Mafia, implying that his illustrious business empire was in fact a front for corruption and crime. The phrase was plastered across front pages, turning Matlala into a symbol of corruption in South African business. The case has involved more than just Matlala. The fact that ministers and police commissioners have been named in the allegations has added to public outrage. People are asking, how many government contracts have been manipulated by hidden connections? Partners who had previously praised Matlala began to quietly withdraw. Some companies announced they were cutting ties, and close friends kept their distance to avoid being implicated. On social media, images of him in suits sitting next to politicians became the subject of ridicule. To the people, Matlala was no longer a successful businessman, but proof that money and power cannot hide the truth. At the conclusion of the hearing, the Alexandra Magistrates Court announced that it would postpone the decision on bail until September 8, 2025. This decision immediately became the focus of media and public opinion because it meant that Matlala would have to remain in custody while awaiting the verdict. The atmosphere was tense. The press described every detail, from Matlala's stony face as he left the court to the dozens of reporters jostling outside the gates. On national television, legal analysts debated, would the court dare to let a man accused of corruption and attempted murder go free while awaiting trial? People across South Africa are following the case with great interest. If the court grants bail, many fear that Matlala could flee or interfere with the witness stand. If he is detained, on the other hand, it would send a strong signal that even the rich and politically connected cannot stay above the law. The case, according to many newspapers, could become one of the most shocking corruption and violence cases of 2025. People across South Africa are following the case with great interest. If the court grants bail, many fear that Matlala could flee or interfere with the witness stand. If he is detained, on the other hand, it would send a strong signal that even the rich and politically connected cannot stay above the law. The case, according to many newspapers, could become one of the most shocking corruption and violence cases of 2025. No matter how powerful or wealthy, all conspiracies will eventually come to light. The case of Vusimusi, Cat Matlala, has not only exposed the downfall of a man once known as a contracting tycoon, but also sheds light on the dark side of the relationship between politics, business, and crime in South Africa. This is not simply the story of a fallen businessman, but also a reminder of the fragility of justice when it is manipulated by hidden interests. For South Africans, this case is proof that the truth always finds a way to come out, despite the layers of power. It raises the big question: can the legal system stand up to the pressure of money and politics? What about you? How do you view the Matlala case? If you find this analysis useful, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and join us in delving deeper into the next shocking cases.